In the trailer, Nicolas Cage's character, the janitor, is described as a man of few words. In fact, he does not speak one word in this entire acting performance. How did you direct him in using all other forms of an actor's expressions?
It was great because Nick and I saw the character the same way. So we never had one really creative disagreement. Directing him, I did a 70-page shot list, so every shot was pretty precise. And I shot the cut because I only had 2 to 3 takes on the movie. So I knew I needed to, I wouldn't have a lot of time. So everything was really detailed out on the shot list. And directing Nick, we just saw the character eye to eye. He thought that the animatronics were trash. That was what he felt. That's why he didn't even give him any respect, And so when we would set up the shots, we would just talk about the character and what's going on, and we would go and we would shoot it. So he and I really, saw the same character. And I knew it had to be visually entertaining and interesting too. I mean, it's Nick Cage, but the idea of having someone who doesn't talk, and that's a challenge, right? So I knew it had to be visual and exciting and stylish. So that's what I really worked on.
You described the movie to Sci-Fi as needing an injection of weirdness. What weirdness wasn't weird enough to make the film?
There's a scene where when he kills Ozzy, Nick actually hugs the bird and kisses him. And that's not in the movie. We felt that it wasn't earned at that point. It was it was such a great moment. Everyone's clapping and so excited about it when we shot it. And that was just Nick doing, an improv, what he felt like. But alas, it just didn't make it. It's one of those things that just, didn't make it. But so we have that. And there was some crazy camera stuff I was doing, spinning the camera around. I wanted to put more fever dream sequences in. But, I had to move the narrative along and move the film along. So when we started doing that, it was kind of bogging down the cut. And so, I knew that this movie was going to be a shot of adrenaline. And I wanted to move fast. I wanted to move like a bullet. So we kind of took some of that stuff out. But I had some definite David Lynchian things going on. If you look at the end with the dissolve, with the confetti to the TV and Willie bouncing up and down, bobbing up and down on the TV, that was very kind of Lynchian. I want to do some more of that stuff, but it kind of slowed the pace down. So we pulled it out.
I read a review online where the person said he didn't like the movie initially at the beginning because of the slow pace, but then we have these great movies like Jaws and movies from the past where the slow pace actually is the big lead up to how exciting the movie is in the end. And this person reviewing the film ended up loving the movie. So how do you feel about that? Do you think it's such a bad thing? Because, as I said, Jaws relied on that tactic of the slow buildup.
What's funny is I didn't even think it's that slow. I mean, you have an opening sequence where an attack's going on and it's like very frenetic, kinetic. And then you go to Nick and you got the quick cuts of him and the titles. Then he's got the narrative has to happen where he hits the spike and stuff. Then we kind of slow it down a little bit. But then he's popping the drinks. He meets Jed. You got the Jed driving. Then we're cross-cutting from the Jed driving into Liv, introducing her character. I mean, I guess, yeah, I mean, you have to set up the story, right? You got to set up the world. And so the narrative. So I never saw it as slow. I mean, I love the whole Tex thing, meeting Jed and him in the garage, and then, him meeting Tex and Tex explaining stuff to him. And so, yeah, I never saw that as slow. But, sometimes people, again, it's difference of opinion. You brought up Jaws. The opening, you get the attack of Jaws, right? The shark, she gets yanked in the water. And then, it goes on for a little bit until and I think, yeah, it's back in the day too, like slow burn, right? I love slow burn movies. Unfortunately, I think today's audience is, with what's going on with cell phones and the internet, whatever, we're so hyper connected. It's like everybody's got ADD. You know what I mean? But I wanted to make this movie fast and like a bullet, so it was interesting that critique, because I don't think the opening's slow at all, but you have to set up the narrative. You got to set up the plot.
Were any weird body language or other characteristics of the janitor or others on screen based on specific inspirations like art, parody, or maybe strange elderly you knew as a young person?
Well, I know Nick, he he loves Once Upon a Time in the West. And so he loves the Charles Bronson character really inspired him for the janitor, you know. And we started talking about that too. There's not a lot of characters in movies that just don't speak. We're talking about, I love Nicholas Winding Refn, Drive, and Ryan Gosling doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but he does speak. And then we talked about Valhalla Rising with Mads Mikkelsen, which is such a great movie. And he doesn't speak in that movie. He does something maybe at the end, but yeah, it's very tough to find a character in a movie that just doesn't speak. So, but I know that Once Upon a Time in the West, that was what Nick was channeling for sure.
Games Radar said Cage has become a bona fide champion of B movies in the last decade or so. Willy's Wonderland, with its shameless appeal to fans of Five Nights at Freddy's, could be Cage's next surprise success. Why do you think a B-movie tribute film is doing well during a pandemic when just about every movie of every genre is being released together?
Originally, when we made the movie, we were thinking like Toronto Midnight Madness. That's what we were going for. And it was kind of a Midnight Madness movie, or a Comic Con, con type movie. It's for the fans, fanboys and girls. I'm a fanboy, so I made it for that. And then, it's one of these movies you just go with your friends and you have a great time, like old time, like Evil Dead, But now with the pandemic and everything, it's changed, right? But it's interesting because, like, I've got 4 kids. I've got 2 teens and 2 younger ones. But the teens were having watch parties with like 30 of their friends. So virtually, they're watching it virtually with each other, like they would be watching if they were together in a movie theater. I know it's not the same thing, but it's kind of an interesting way that it's opened up on these movies. And yeah, everything's going to streaming now. Things have changed with the movie theaters. I do think we're going to get theaters back. I don't know when. Probably, when this pandemic ends or, the vaccine really goes out there. I miss the theaters. I wanted to see Willy's in the theaters. Interesting enough, I saw it in the drive-in last week. And that was pretty cool. I mean, it's a total drive-in movie, and people were like flashing their lights when Nick was taking out the animatronics. The pinball scene, they were honking their horns, flashing their lights. That was a really fun experience. So, I wish I could see the movie with the fans. That's what I wanted to do when I was making it. I was thinking about that all the time, and it's kind of a bummer. But, with this pandemic, there's other people that have lost lives, and even especially what I went through and other things. So that's a real small drop in the bucket, but I think we are in a different way of watching films now. This is, our world's changed because of the pandemic. Everything's changed. So definitely watching movies, these big movies even dropping on streaming or HBO Max and everything. I mean, it's good because it's accessible and people need content. They want to have good content. It is an exciting time. It's kind of like the Wild Wild West in a way with what's going on because there's really no rules, right? No one really knows when these big movies are going to come out and everything, and they keep pushing them, and then these movies drop to streaming and like Promising Young Woman, which I loved. That was great. And so yeah, but just having Willy's and having the people love it as much as they have and write up about it and stuff. It is exciting. I also think we need a fun movie, in this pandemic. I think that, we need a movie to check your brain at the door. We need more of these kind of movies with what's going on in the political climate and the pandemic. I think we need a little more fun in our cinema.
The shooting schedule was only 1 month. The animatronic characters only had 1 opportunity to be destroyed. What unusual filming methods did you go through knowing there were no redos?
So, we always had to shoot the setup, of course, and then the beat down at the end. And, I knew that there were no redos. We only had 1 creature suit. So we would have 2 cameras on it. So we had coverage. And there's a thing we did with a Rage Cage where we'd do like 18 frames per second handheld shooting with putting flashlights in the lens, give us those lens flares. So we'd have like a Rage Cage camera, and then we'd have another camera capturing the action. So I knew we had that and some and coverage. But yeah, it was definitely, and Nick really beat the tar out of those animatronic suits, man. I mean, they just were literally destroyed. Eyeballs busted. That was the thing. Like with Ozzy, he would crack Ozzy, and the eyeball would already, bust. So we had to go mend it back because we needed other shots because we had to take the puppeteers out, and so we had to do like when you do visual effects, you have to do 2 or 3 different takes of the scene for all the elements, and that was kind of difficult and slowed us down. But this movie's a lot of practical, which I planned on it because it is a hark back to the 80s, and we have an indie level budget and time. So, and I think people want to see more practical. So it was pretty cool that we did with the suits, and Ozzy was a puppet, and interacted with Nick.
You didn't have any CGI at all in this?
We had CGI. We did. It was interesting with CGI. There was stuff about like just taking, reflections out of the glasses. But there was CGI on Siren Sarah, in the fairy forest, and Artie's tongue, and accentuated scenes. But I don't think we relied on. We weren't world building with CGI. They just helped us along on some things, smooth things out.
How else did it work having only one puppet and the rest being puppeteers in costume?
In a way, we were glad to get rid of Ozzy because it was very time consuming. The pan that I did when he's mopping and we're doing a pan around, I had to do that, and I had to do it with Ozzy, without, like I said, the elements for the visual effects because we had to erase the puppeteers. And so the fight with Nick, I had to do it, with Ozzy, with the puppeteers, without. So basically, it was like getting all these elements and having to redo the scene so many times. And so it was like I said, I only had 2 to 3 takes on each scene to do. But with Ozzy, it was like 9, 10, 12 takes. And so that took up a bulk of time, So once we got Ozzy done, even the first AD was like, thank God we're done with the bird, because now we got just the creatures, the stunt performers in the suits. So it was a lot easier.
The film you were supposed to direct instead of Willy's Wonderland didn't work out. Did this set you on a new path of genre discovery and new ideas, or are you going to try making that old project happen?
I feel like kind of reborn with Willy's, to be honest with you. And it's kind of exciting. And I want to make more movies in the kind of vein of Willy's. I really liked, like I said, my kids having their 30 friends watch the watch parties, and everybody, really just flipping out and loving what we did and excited about this movie, and kind of fun genre, bringing a smile to people's faces. So, the one movie I was working on was kind of more of a dark, kind of a Resident Evil vibe to it. And I don't know, we'll see what happens, but it's exciting. I feel like, reborn, like Phoenix has risen out of this movie. And, I'm excited to tap into new things, but I really did like the genre, the horror kind of comedy action genre that we did with Willy's.
You said a sequel is great. Does the janitor always have to fight animatronics, or will he expand into other B-movie classic ideas? Will he ever speak?
There's a lot of great ideas that we have for a sequel. It could go a lot of different ways. It's called Willy's Wonderland. If you did Willy's Wonderland 2, you didn't have Willy in the gang. Well, that doesn't kind of make sense, right? So then do you do the janitor in the title, if you don't do Willy? But I don't know. I think there's a way to bring things back. We've already been brainstorming on some things. You got to make it, original and unique and different. And you don't want to just do the same thing like we did on this, because then it's just, it's really not special. But, it's up to Nick if he wants to come back, and hopefully he will. I think there are many adventures for the janitor. I really do. And I think there's adventures for Willy too. So I'd be excited to make a sequel if the fans want it.
I feel like one of the things in the sequel should be the backstory of why the janitor doesn't speak.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because that's what a lot of people have been saying. They want to know more about the janitor. I think, Nicole, if, we do our job right, which we did with this movie, that's exciting because people want more, right? And so what you just said, people brought that up a lot, like the origin of the janitor. Where did he come from? What's his thing? Why does he speak? So that will definitely be, I would like to explore that in the sequel for sure.
Releasing a film during the pandemic frightens anyone. But if you were in a horror film, what would frighten you?
I tend to like psychological horror films. So, The Shining, right? I love Jacob's Ladder. So, it's not as much as like, a slasher just stalking you or something, but it's playing with your mind, and maybe losing your mind. That's why I love Jacob's Ladder. It's like these things are just unraveling and he doesn't understand why. Same thing with The Shining, right? Jack Torrance is losing his mind in the hotel. So it would be psychological for me. It would be, losing your mind and then the what comes after that, of terror, and psychological horror.